this weekend in Paris at Worlds 2024. It's time for a semi-final matchup, and the one for who the crown is the heaviest, having to go through 3 formidable foes to make it to the final again. Today we get a bout between the LPL Mites of Weibo and BLG, which is a rematch of the finals we saw in summer as the players made their way under the beautiful Paris sunshine into the Adidas Arena. My name is Shox, and I'm joined here by Chronicler, by Emily, and by Kobe for what is always a good time at it is LPL versus LPL.
Yeah, we're gonna have, I mean, I feel like LPL always delivers somehow. Even if it's a 3-0, we should have some great team fights.
Will we be here for a long time, though?
I hope so.
Or is it just going to be a
With this company, please.
Okay, so last week everyone was like, I don't remember what the exact percentages were, but I know Weibo wasn't favored, and we all know how that one went. So I'm just saying.
Hey, we all knew how FlyQuest versus Gen G was gonna go,
Exactly.
Kobe, but it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't quite push it over the line, and so it still hurts a little bit that we weren't fully able to make an upset happen, but I'm still incredibly excited for next year, and now I'm 100% rooting for Gen G to go through the rest of the tournament and try and prove so that we can claim FlyQuest is actually the second best team.
I see. I still have that with BLG as well.
Yeah,
someone on X also said that it is such an interesting constellation of semifinals because you have like old guard versus new guard in both of them, with Chovy versus FLICKR and Knight versus Xiaohu. I'm super excited. I know there was a lot of chatter online about the finals that we don't want, but our job is to sell everything to you. So we're going to, at random, give everyone a final, and they can make you excited for it regardless of the one. Emily, do you want to start?
All right, let's go. What do we got?
You have to clap, I think.
Okay. All right. It is the rematch of last year's World Final. The one you think you don't want, but you secretly do. You want to know why? Because it's Danny versus his old team, right? Will he get the final word over T1, or will T1 just smash him once again? I'm looking forward to finding out. Also, Breathe will have to pull off the Shy performance like what the Shy did last year, right? Or it establishes this T1 roster as one of the greatest core of 5 of all time.
She got me, I think. That's
That's
good.
a good
Really?
That's good. Yeah.
Kobe
Not
looks
so
like,
much.
she's just like, no.
All right, Kobe,
No.
you
Like I said,
pick
I
one.
want to
do you
see
want,
Gen G in
Kobe?
there, of course.
Okay, pick one.
How do we start this thing?
Well, you've clapped a lot. No, you broke it. This is the same
Emily
one.
already got that one.
Yeah.
Let's do another one. Okay, here, I'll
Go
go
again.
What are you getting?
Gen G,
I feel
one
like
time.
Oh my
What?
god. Is it broken?
Kobe broke it.
Kobe.
How about now?
All right, which one do you want to defend?
I mean, I want one at least with Gen G.
Okay. All right.
This is the best one. This is the best one. Everybody wants to see Knight versus Chovy.
True.
Best mid laner in the LPL versus best mid laner in the LCK. Also, it was a banger at MSI. When you see the two teams play against each other that are the best in the world, are you satisfied with just one tournament of it? No! You want another set! We gotta give BLG the chance for revenge. We gotta see the best two teams again clashing for World Finals. Both those players want to make their case for being, best in the world. They're going to need a World Championship trophy to do that.
Very convincing.
I'm
Very
already sold. I'm
convincing.
already
All right,
out on
let me
mine.
go. Let's see. I hope it works. BLG T1.
Ooh.
Now
Okay.
that's Kobe. I mean, sorry, but isn't that the one you would want?
Guys,
It's
I'm going to stick with the one I
insane.
got. I actually really like mine.
No, there's so many storylines that would go into this. This is also actually a matchup that we would love to see many times over, especially in such a high-stakes match. You would have Bin versus Zeus for 5 games in the top lane. That sounds amazing to me. You have Elk versus the Deathless King, Gumayushi. You have, of course, Knight having to do it versus FLICKR, having to go through him to make it. It would be a beautiful final as well.
All right. Well, we already know, but let's roll the tape, right? We gotta
Which
make
one
this
is it?
honest.
There's only
I'm gonna
one
get my
option
club. There's
left.
only one option left, and now you might think that this is not what you want, that this is out of the
It
four.
is what I am
but
thinking.
that's not true. The true connoisseur of League knows that this is actually the coolest. You just have to dive below the surface. Obviously, Griffin, both on Tarzan's side and on Lance and Chovy, like that's cool. But for me, the core is in the mid lane. Xiaohu, as good as he is, as many consecutive years of top performances this man has governed, still will not be the first thing on people's minds when you think about who is the second best mid laner. And guess what? Chovy doesn't win this Worlds, he might go the same way. For both of these players, this is the chance to finally claim that title. And I can't wait to see if that's actually going to be the final.
I love it. So wherever we're going with whomever we're going, it's going to be awesome.
They're all good.
They're all equally good.
Yeah, except for...
Yeah.
Anyways, don't forget to lock in your pick'ems if you forgot. You still have a little bit of time, 24 minutes to be exact. And let's dive into our matchup of the day, a rematch of the LPL Summer Finals between Weibo and BLG. And let's check in with our global power rankings powered by AWS to see where they end up. I think Weibo came into this tournament at 11. Now they're at 7. So I think they're fairly ranked.
It's warranted, particularly given their quarterfinals, because pre-quarterfinals, I think there were still a lot of doubts given how shaky they looked. But this team has, throughout the tournament, just been iterating, and they have looked better and better.
Yeah, climbing up those standings. I mean, Breathe performances, Xiaohu some really good performances. I don't think Xiaohu's ever going to get Aurora again. But yeah, we'll see about the individual matchups.
We will indeed. And who better to introduce us to this matchup a little bit more in depth than Lore, who is standing by with Wendy from the LPL in our Verizon Game Day interview.
Welcome back to Paris. We have LPL versus LPL matchup today, which means I have Wendy with me again. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
Yeah, a great day. Can't wait to see the match.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the match, and I can imagine that it's a bit bittersweet for you guys. Having LPL versus LPL means that one of the teams is going to go finals, but one of the teams is going to go home. So tell me about the overall sentiment from the LPL fans when it comes to today's matchup. What are they excited about?
Definitely, first of all, I must say we're so proud of the two teams because they just be able to stand on the stage of the semifinals, and one team is going to represent the whole LPL region to reach that grand final. But I must say the two teams, they're really familiar with each other because they faced against of each other so many times back in LPL, and this summer in best of fives, they have already played twice, and I must say the result is not that good for WBG because BLG won all the games, but we know what happened last year, so it's really hard to tell because from the very beginning of the Swiss stage until now, we can see the two teams, they have grown a lot of them, and they have so many parts they have made the improvements on, so can't wait to see what's going to happen today.
And that's what is interesting because BLG entered the competition as one of the tournament's favorites. Weibo Gaming, on the other hand, not a lot of expectations, I want to say, but they ended up in finals last year, as you said. So when it comes to today's matchup, which player do you think can surprise the most on each team?
I always feel like in League of Legends, mid laner plays a very crucial part. And for today's game, we have Knight and Xiaohu, definitely the two players. I feels like they're the players just got the most titles in LPL. They're kind of the representatives of the LPL players. But I must say, the two players, they just won that the World Championship title so hard. And I must say, they're going to just try their best in this Special 5. And also the top laner as well, because last year we all seen the Bing and the Shy, but this year we got Breeze. But from the Swiss stage, we can see Breeze really pumped up so much for all the games, can carry the game to help the team. And definitely for this meta, there are so many lane swaps, and WBG really did a super good job in this to try to restrain maybe Bing's performance, Bing's laning phase, because we know Bing can really perform so proactively in the game.
Top liners, unsung heroes of League of Legends once again. Anything can happen. I'm so ready for today. Thank you so much, Wendy.
And I'm glad she brought up the top laners. I'm also glad she brought up the record that these two teams have against each other, right? Because they've matched up against each other a lot over the past 2 years. They're very familiar with each other. And as Wendy said, and we're going to be able to see here, it is heavily BLG favored, right? So they are, it's 9 games to 20. It's 2-7 in series. However, one of those two was the World's 2023 semifinals from last year, which was very, very unexpected in Weibo Gaming's favor. And I do want to say, this Weibo Gaming team is, I would say, better than last year's Weibo Gaming team. I do think they're more put together. I like the way they play the map better. I think BLG are also a better iteration of their form last year, so it's cool to see them meeting in semifinals once again.
There you go, Slender right here, coming over
Not
from Emily of all
Not
people.
me.
She's a #1 toothpaste lover, okay?
True. Enjoyer.
Yeah. Her breath always smells amazing.
Yeah,
and sounds amazing too.
It sounds amazing too.
I do really think that, particularly, I've seen that exact graph before, and that was with Hanwha, Zeka versus Chovy.
Yep.
And especially, the one thing that for me is the biggest hit for Weibo is that the player that allowed him to win that semifinal is not here today, right? Which was the Shy, who had one of the best series that he'd had in years.
Yeah, I mean, the key a lot with these things and these histories is that recency bias, there's a reason people have recency bias, because the most recent performances, especially in League of Legends, where you actually have the exact same roster, you know, and the patches are more similar. Those ones are like even more BLG-sided. So yeah, it is definitely looking their favor.
It's why they say you're only as good as your last match played, right? And it is true, especially in League of Legends. Someone who plays well very, very often is Elk. And he's featured in our edition of Draw My Life with Emily.
Yep. So it's time for another Draw My Life. This time it is Draw My LPL Life Elk. Elk Xiaohu began his pro career on Mighty Eagle and then Lingon Esports in 2018. Known then as Jomung, he joined WE in the middle of the 2019 season. While on WE, Elk was known for his aggressive and risky teamfight positioning, but was also recognized for his good mechanics with the 2020 Rookie of the Split award. In 2021, Elk and WE narrowly missed Worlds. Elk then joined Ultra Prime in 2022 for an unsuccessful year, and then joined BLG in 2023. BLG last year became unexpectedly became one of the strongest teams in China, and in 2024 spring, Elk finally won his first LPL title, and he earned Finals MVP. On BLG, Elk has not only become a world-class bot laner, but a leader for his team. He's someone who's willing to tank difficult questions in interviews, in addition to pulling off amazing outplays to keep his team in the game during teamfights. And I want to call out something he said in his Finals MVP interview, where he basically said, "I think my hard work along the way paid off. I want to thank my old self that had been through bad results, faced doubts, and never gave up. It's been a tough journey." That was translated by you on Twitter. Thank you so much. And yeah, he's been through a lot to get here, as has Breathe, actually, his ex-teammate.
Indeed, we'll talk a little bit more about that matchup as well. I know that Lore was able to catch up with Elk after his last match, so we'll listen to what he had to say in the Verizon Game Day interview.
You're going to face off against Weibo in semifinals. What do you think of their bot lane and also the dominance of champions like Ashe, Kalista, and Ezreal right now?
We have really faced against of each other so many times back in LPL, so I'm really familiar with their bot lane. And for the matchup, maybe it really depends on the momentum on that show day. And for the bot lane champion choices, I do feel like maybe for this meta, the utility champion is more popular in the bot lane. For example, like Ashe, Kalista, and Ezreal, those champions are more good in all the team fights. We just need to do our farming by ourselves and try our best in the team fights.
Now, talking about Weibo a bit more in particular, what do you think of their evolution from the time you faced off against them in the LPL into what they've been able to showcase here at Worlds so far?
So I do feel like for every single World Championship, even all the strong teams, we really need to make a restart from the very beginning. And we have faced against WBG so many times back in LPL, but for World Championship, everything can happen. It could be really different. And we have the similar storyline with WBG. Like from this stage, we were really have a very tough time. Both teams, we really have so much pressure on our shoulders. So I'm very happy we really break through all the limits. I'm very happy we can qualify it and to be able to face off against each other in the semifinals.
突破自己，然后走到4强，我觉得非常开心。对。
And facing each other in the semifinals means that you have a guaranteed LPL team that is going to be in World's Grand Finals. How does that make you feel?
Definitely, I feel so happy that one of the LPL team qualified to the grand final of World Championship. But from the perspective of BLG, last year we lost to them in the semifinals, which is the most crucial match for the whole year. So this year we really would like to take the revenge. So what I like to say to WBG, my bros, bro, you have been to the grand final last year. So this time we're going to carry you guys to see what's happening in the grand final.
Time for another team, maybe. Thank you so much for the interview. Thank you so much, Wendy, for the translation.
Yeah, right. He's right.
That's amazing.
Let someone else take a crack at it. It makes sense.
I also like how he's, again, talking directly to one of his former teammates, right? Because there was a WE team where it was him and Breathe along with his former bot lane partner Missing. And Breathe has been a huge part of Weibo Gaming's success at this tournament specifically, and I think overall they're really good at setting up for Breathe, specifically on the Gnar.
Love the
He has
title.
been fantastic.
And it's really important to note that it's very easy to just be like, just ban it or like pick it away early. But particularly on red side, you are really hamstrung in terms of how much space you have in the bans. And in best of five, you want to try and adapt as much as possible. Being forced to either pick a really early Gnar in the first rotation or ban it away, I think actually might end up being a big factor if Weibo can stand up to BLG here today.
Yeah, and I think it is going to be very difficult for them to stand up to BLG.
Yep.
And so I've actually pulled a clip because we've been talking about the most applicable thing to analyzing this series is the most recent stuff. So what's more recent than versus HLE, the BLG team fight that
Avert
they
your
had?
eyes.
It's okay.
So
it's
this
okay.
is, I wanted to pull something
Thank
that
you.
was like fair. This is from game number 4, where actually BLG are significantly behind in gold, over 4,000 gold behind, down 2 towers, and yet I want to highlight how smart BLG are, because a lot of people highlight their individual players and their team fighting, but really their map movements and their setup for objectives is so good. So notice, even behind in gold, they have pushed the top lane already before the dragon even spawned, and then swapped Bin over here down to the bottom side to go for a flank, because the key to winning this team fight is going to be killing Viper, the flashless AD carry. So as we go through this one, slow-mo is going to be really cool, because you'll see Shun is a player that doesn't get highlighted too much, but on Kindred, he is able to position over here to bait Peanut's Poppy ultimate and then Q back and still smite this dragon to get them to soul points. Then BLG will focus on the team fight. Meanwhile, we mentioned Bin up here. He's sneaky as ever, playing on Fog of War, looking for the flank. You see Zeka even trying to check, where is Bin? Where is Bin? Because they know the key is flanking Viper. There's the dodge on the Poppy ultimate into smiting the dragon. And notice they also didn't damage the dragon, so that it took a long time. Doran is now mini. There goes Bin. The dive in, and everyone's focused on the double Galio ults, which looks sick. In those double Galio ults, yes, BLG lose the first person of the team fight on, but Bin makes the call to re-engage. He gets his counter-strike back, and everyone follows up. Now, here's where you gotta pause, because it's not just a dive comp. Shun is actually going to be the star again. He takes on 2 members here because he knows he has Kindred ultimate to delay, while the rest of his diving team takes out Viper, takes out the heart of HLE, and so he buys time with his Kindred ult. He 2v1s Peanut and Zeka, buying time for the rest of his team, who after, job done, killing enemy carry, then are able to wipe the team fight. And that was down 4,500 gold. It just goes to show so many things that BLG do well. Their team fight setup, their objective team fight, their objective setups, and their actual mechanics. So it's going to be very tough, I would say, for Weibo.
I love that you said ripped out the heart of HLE.
Yeah.
For Maurits here next to
Yeah,
me.
they did.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it's also why I love watching these best of fives, particularly in the knockout stage, so much, because there's so many intricacies and there's so much snap decision making. Yes, exactly. Snap decision making, which is so beautiful that we were all looking at the double Galio ults, right? But every single person is doing all these little intricacies to make sure that the fight is won.
Well, the most mind-boggling thing to me is that you can argue that isn't even the best team fight that BLG fought, because we have the
Everyone
Elk
likes the-
fight later.
Everyone likes it. I would also say Knight does so much work in that team fight.
Yeah, Knight's Galio was actually insane in that fight.
It is crazy indeed. Now, we brought it up before already. The shy isn't there. And I think what I can really get out of a lot of the storytelling around this matchup is that Knight's going to be better than Xiaohu, and Azael did a whole presentation on why Knight deserves the respect. And I agree with that. He definitely does. But Xiaohu, who here needs convincing?
What is this?
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay.
In defense of Xiaohu, basically.
Okay,
because
okay.
I think some people aren't giving him the respect that he deserves. I have a lot, okay?
That's a lot.
That's a big
full, though.
I will.
There's so many pages in here.
There are. We're going to start with some beautiful pictures. He's been around for a long time, of course.
Okay,
Yeah. That works on
We
different
remember
teams.
GMP.
Weibo RNG, you all remember, of course.
That was like the pre-Showmaker punch. That's the level 1.
Yeah, it is. Tons of fans as well. Now, how many times have Xiaohu won the LPL? 1, 2, 3.
She's got
You
the
know?
receipts.
Yeah, I know.
4, 5 times. Tied tied with Knight.
I was going to say, you know who else is on
Yeah, okay, good. I don't have you yet.
I'm not
That's fine.
convinced yet. I'm not
More
convinced.
evidence.
Back to back.
Strife, okay? This guy gets flamed more than anyone else. This is the RNGG2 game from a couple of years ago. Oh, that smug mid laner. He
I
had
love
to
this
listen
meme.
to that for ages and
I love
ages
this
and ages. Even when he was winning, his own team would flame him. This is from winning a match versus Mad Lions at MSI, and Ming is just saying, what the F are you doing, dude?
Oh my
They flame him
God.
nonstop. An honorable mention for this one, if the team lack a top lane, he can play top lane. If they lack a mid laner, he can play mid lane. If they lack money, he can be sold immediately. Which player would not fold after something like this?
Thank you for that translation, Linda.
Yes, thank you, Linda. But he didn't fold. He won MSI 3 times.
I know.
How many times has Knights won MSI? Once.
It's only one.
Exactly. And you're going to say, oh, we got carried by the Shy, you got carried by Uzi. Exhibit A. Kingzone, Dragon X, 2018 MSI. What is this? What are you seeing?
They're about to win.
Game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
game
game's
looks
gonna end.
lost.
The game's actually pretty much over. But the anti-Kadril, Xiaohu, runs mid, flashes in,
Kadril
channels the
catching straight
entire
through.
Malzahar ult. I didn't
Wait,
know.
you don't
Yeah.
have to cancel it?
Nope, you don't. He did it. He kills Khan, and they end up winning orange that
my
MSI.
God.
I mean, praise
I'm
from
getting
team
more
members.
convinced.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still...
Cultural impact, single-handedly making an entire TikTok trend worldwide. I mean, Kobe, I know you're the hardest person to convince. Also, this blind Ori, just here at Worlds, a blind Ori.
That was sick. That
Some
was
would
sick.
argue it's better when he can't see. I'm not one of those people. Anyways, I think one of the big things which nobody has ever been able to replicate is that he won MSI as a mid laner and a top laner.
That one I love.
True. I like
That's
that point.
crazy. I mean, if that doesn't...
Lucian top, Syndra top. It was good looking too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here we have just a bunch of stats. I mean,
Okay.
just to say, the
You
guy's
have
a
so
GOAT.
many more pages.
Yeah, the guy's a GOAT, right? And I mean, the caveat here is, of course, that Knight has done a lot of this in less time, but I still feel like Xiaohu...
No, you have to.
You just,
You have to.
I had
Point.
to. Yeah. There we go.
Knight is also really good.
It is.
And he's going to have to go through Xiaohu.
He will have to. So it's time for today's featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. It's Xiaohu versus Knight.
In this World's 2023 semifinals rematch, BLG and Weibo meet again. But in the mid lane, things are different. To repeat the upset of last year, Xiaohu will have to go through Knight in our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz.
Nature's Grasp as well from Tarzan. Breeze flashes away from LNG. No one tanking up the tower as of yet. Chris flashes in. They're looking for more twisted advance. Paranoia on the back line, but the shockwave is absolutely massive. Xiaohu finds 4. Wei walking away wounded, but I don't think there's another way for him to go home. Xiaohu finds 2.
Xiaohu has already conquered MSI, as his 3 trophies are tied with Ming for the most all time. He's also tied with, among others, his direct opponent Knight, for most LPL titles with 5. But the most coveted trophy, the World Championship, the Summoner's Cup, has remained out of both players' grasps.
Well, now you can see Viper moving on over. There's a headbutt pulverize only onto Shun, though, hit by the charm, but now on. He gets his way in there. Knight looking to just return the favor onto Zeka. He's not allowed to play the game this time around. And BLG, they'll just grab 2.
Xiaohu's road to the finals looks daunting, as Knight's BLG squad has a 10-1 record against Weibo in 2024. But let's not forget, it was the exact same story last year.
Weibo, through all the doubt, through all the disbelief, will earn their place in the finals.
Will Xiaohu repeat history and make the upset happen? Or will Knight finally make his first ever Worlds Finals appearance? Only one will continue their quest to win it all.
Yeah, even with all the kind of caveats about Xiaohu, Knight is phenomenal, right? And it would be absolutely deserved for him to find his way to his first final, Emily.
Yeah, and I think Elk kind of said it best, where he was like, you guys got to go through, as we see Knight prepping, giving the thumbs up. You know, you guys got to go through last year. It's our turn. And Knight, most notably, as you already pointed out, was not on that team, right? It was Yagao, and Knight was their massive offseason pickup that they were like, we are going to win Worlds. Like, a Worlds win is what this team wants, and they do not want Weibo to stop them there.
They absolutely don't, and I think all the LPN fans, because we can't forget that Weibo was even kind of lambasted for even making it, right? They were like, oh, surely you're not going to do this again, when I think you deserve it fair and square. You deserve to take a shot at BLG. But how much do we really think these two teams have evolved? Taking into context again that it isn't necessarily something you saw in the summer finals that you'll see today. We saw it even last week, right, in some of the series. Some teams do not play the same, play better or play worse.
For me, the biggest difference is I think both teams looked quite shaky in different ways, but particularly the expectation in Swiss.
Yeah.
But when you compare the level of the two quarterfinals, that's where I do think, as Kobe mentioned, that's the most recent series we have to go off of. Even though Weibo was clearly a lot better, and frankly, I think should have 3-0'd LNG. They had the worst trade deal of all time, which made this series go to a 3-1. The level of performance shown by BLG should mean that this is a one-sided series. And it is in practice not often what happens, but that is the expectation that I think we should have, because what BLG did against Home Alive in terms of team fighting, in terms of resilience, is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think for Weibo, you kind of pull on some of the magic and some of the individual things, like the Aurora. You don't think that's getting through. You guys mentioned the Gnar as well.
Yeah.
Like, really trying to squeeze them out.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is the one window I can actually really see for Weibo is in a lane swap, as Wendy already mentioned, or their level 1 preparation,
Oh my
right?
God.
The crowd's already getting so hyped. Because I think when you mash them together, like 1v1, looking at, to your point, the skill they've displayed thus far at this tournament, how many times BLG has been able to best Weibo over the past 2 years, I think a lot of options that Weibo had are matched by BLG's players very well.
I feel like that's already an introduction to your prediction. First, I'm going to see what the fans had to say about it in our MasterCard fan prediction of the day, which, if things are normal, should be a little skewed towards BLG, I think, as there are many LPL fans here. Yeah.
Oh, so close to 69.9.
Nice. Anyways, and the fans are winning a little bit more again, 78%, because it was plummeting. I think, is this fair, or should it be more skewed for BLG?
I think this is fair. I think that BLG should clearly be the heavy favorites. What is it, 70-30 feels very apt for what we expected. I don't think that, given what we've seen in terms of top-tier performances from Weibo in given moments, if they do end up winning, I think people will point to that. But this should be a very BLG favorite matchup.
I kind of want to look for some magic then, because when we were heading into FlyQuest versus Gen G, it was way more one-sided even than this. And so if you're looking at Weibo and you're going to take inspiration and start really cooking, the meta is quite open. So maybe there's some really fun draft stuff that we can see. You know, this tournament, I think, gives a lot of hope for upsets. And as you said, last year as well, you know, people can always kind of like draw on past magics or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think in addition to champion picks, I would really still look at lane swaps and level 1s as places where they can be really creative. In particular, get Bin versus Breathe. Even though Breathe has laned well against Bin as recently as the LPL finals, like, get him out of that lane, make sure he can't kind of dominate a matchup, and set them up for success really early.
So you're saying there's a chance. I wonder if your predictions will reflect the MasterCard fan predictions. Do you want to start, Maurits?
I'm going BLG 3-2. So I predicted Weibo last week, and I felt confident about that, given what LNG had shown, what Weibo and the level that they had shown, even though it was a bit messy. This time around, even though I've given them more games, I really don't think they should win. It's going to have to not only be Weibo playing to their peak, but also BLG really struggling for them to win this. So I think giving them games is fair, but I don't think they're going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I am going BLG 3-1 for all the reasons I said. Basically, I do think Weibo can take a game. I don't think BLG are always a clean team. They almost dropped that game 3 in the finals, but yeah, BLG favored still.
You saw mine up there too. I went 3-1. I mean, I gave Weibo one blue side game. I think they should be able to scrap out.
Yeah, I think with everything we've looked at here, it feels a little bit similar to last year, I'm going to say, right? With Weibo being the absolute underdogs in this matchup, of course, not being able to overcome BLG in those summer finals. But this is different. This is Worlds. This is the pressure cooker in the Paris arena. We've seen bigger stars fumble, right? And for Xiaohu, it is going to be an amazing chance to show that he's still got it and that he can make it to those finals overnight. Knight, who is so destined to get there, to get a chance to fight for the World Championship title. Let our semifinals begin.
Toute œuvre d'art commence par un rêve. Petit à petit, ce rêve finalement devient réalité. Pour beaucoup, c'est le voyage d'une vie.
自从我加入 WBG 以来，确实在对战 BLG， 不管是 BU3 还是 BU 的对局中，我们都是经常去输掉比赛。然后我觉得对面的选手风格是有点克制我们这边的，然后也在这方面吃过很多的苦头。
同样的比赛里面相遇，说明我们两支战队都是非常有实力的 LPL 战队。
Weibo, through all the doubt, through all the disbelief, earned their place in the finals. It's in my blood, it's in my veins.
去年输掉半决赛之后，就觉得非常失落吧，然后也有一些遗憾。 我希望我们 LPL 带来一个冠军，弥补去年的遗憾。
我觉得去年输也是非常可惜吧，就到现在我都记得，就每个操作的画面，就感觉那时候我个人状态其实不是很好吧，这种队伍其实整体都是非常好的。 去年输掉比赛一瞬间，我觉得 LPL 冠军对于我远远不够，就我还需要一次世界舞台证明自己。我赢得过 LPL， 赢得过 MSI， 但现在我只想在世界赛上证明自己是最强中的。
BLG 其实交手过这么多次的话，其实我们对于应对他们其实还是有自己的一些想法的。我认为我们这次面对 WBG 送他们一个9比0。
今年我们击败了你们很多次，这次也不会例外。
虽然你们在 LPL 击败了我们无数次，但是最重要的胜利会属于我们。
Deux équipes qui portent l'espoir de la LPL. Le destin veut qu'une seule équipe puisse porter cette lumière.
He takes out Weibo, Elk saves the game.
我和冰选手都倒在过世界赛决赛的舞台上。 所以，不管这一次我们谁进入到总决赛，都要让 LPL 的欢呼声响彻伦敦。
Une seule équipe peut poursuivre son rêve. Et seul le temps nous le dira.
Bonjour Paris! Bienvenue à la équipes, 4 équipes qui peuvent prétendre soulever la coupe de l'invocateur. Aujourd'hui, le match, les 2 derniers représentants de la LPL. D'un côté, ils sont de nouveau en marche de la finale. Et de l'autre, les champions en titre de la LPL. Mesdames et messieurs, pour vos demi-finalistes, veuillez accueillir Weibo et BiliBili. Au poste de support, DreamSmart. Et face à lui, c'est la Guinée, Xiaohu, et son adversaire, et maintenant, officiant dans la jungle, Tarzan, en face de lui, Yone. Et finalement, sur la top lane, Breeze! Et en face de lui, BiliBili! Mesdames et messieurs, pour une équipe, uniquement la défaite, mais pour l'autre, une place ultime pour aller réclamer le titre de champion du monde. Alors, pour vos demi-finalistes, faites un maximum de bruit pour Weibo et BiliBili.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Worlds 2024. It is time for the semi-finals. The LPL and the LCK are destined to meet for the Summoners Cup a week from now. But today, we're going to find out which one of these LPL teams gets to carry their region's banner forward to that final fight.
Exactly. It's going to be massive stakes on the line for both of these teams, both so hungry for a chance at that world title.
But for Weibo, it is very much an uphill battle. 8-1 this year against BLG. They now have to climb an absolute mountain, take on Titans, if they hope to get themselves once more into that final spot.
Yeah, I believe it's even 10-1 if you count their best of 3 in spring, and it's 8 straight wins here, with those 2 wins in a row, in that last best of 3 they played, and then back-to-back 3-0s. BLG has been dominating Weibo.
Well, we talk about climbing mountains, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Weibo versus BLG. The semifinals last year in Korea told a similar tale, and Weibo was able to triumph. Now, getting into the draft for the first time today, let's see how it goes. Weibo on blue side, first banning the Sylas alongside the Rakan, while BLG responds with Aurora and Orianna.
And I was really curious to see what this pick ban was going to look like, because draft priorities were so different for these two teams coming into quarterfinals. Like, the Orianna was big, but the Sylas on the opposite side for Knight was just as large. And now the question is, do we finally get that Yone red side back?
I think they shouldn't do it. I think it's, a reasonable assumption to leave it open and say that Xiaohu, we're not sure that you can actually win on this pick against us. It does guarantee that Knight would have counter pick in mid lane. It does guarantee that he can put that pressure on Xiaohu. And I don't think Xiaohu has really shown us that he is that elite level Yone, and BLG agrees.
Exactly. The last ban of the first half for Weibo will be the Ashe, and the Maokai banned out for BLG means Yone is up in game 1.
Especially when you're able to trade it for things like the Kalista with the Ashe taken away, mega priority on that bottom side, and you can also go for the Skarner. You're already setting up for a great play into this, what's going to be more than likely a dive comp, but it's been getting his Jax first rotation.
It's going to be, yeah, exactly. There it is. As soon as you see the Jax, you know they're not going to give over that Skarner. So the first 2 picks here, massive for BLG, and you can still counterpick mid on 3 if you'd like, and go towards things like even Knight's Ahri that he's so famous for.
And I was also curious to see what the Kalista party was going to be like, because Light has already brought out things like the Caitlyn in this competition, and he's more than happy to go for an answer, but it will be immediately taken here. And now it's a question of, okay, well, Elk, do you want to go back towards something like the Ziggs that we end up running away with in the playoffs, or is it going to be something a little bit more standard?
And I also just really want to see, Chris, how are you going to perform in this Renata? Because I was not impressed by his Renata in the quarterfinals at all. He was trying to go for these very kind of like unexpected plays. He was looking for flanks even at time on the Renata, trying to get these ultis in from behind. And he wasn't doing a good job of protecting Light, which is going to be so critical.
All right, over on BLG, it looks like we've got our mid lane answer to that Yone. Remember, this is the same thing that we saw in the 5th and final game between Gen G and FlyQuest. Gen G baiting FlyQuest in to locking that Yone first on blue side, responding with a Smolder of their own, and that's going to be Knight's recipe for success here in game number 1 of this semifinal series.
I want to see what Breed's recipe for success is, though, into this Jax, because he has been most confident on things like the Renekton, the Gnar, and these kind of things, but already K'Sante banned away. I imagine we'll get one of those banned away on this following rotation as well, and it feels like you're already on BLG setting up for this big play for being that top side. And when we look back to this matchup in the semifinals of Worlds last year, it was the Shy able to control Bin so well on that top side. Now with the Gnar taken away, how does Breed try to control Bin on his Jax?
I think that's a big question, but also, how can BLG answer what we've seen drafted in the bot lane by Light and Chris? The Ziggs is going to get banned away. One of these neutralizing picks there that would have been pretty powerful for Elk, especially because they already have an AD in the mid lane. And when you look back towards the finals, it was Elk and On that were running this 2v2. They were crushing Light and Chris. Now a lot of key picks have been banned away here from Elk. So they're going to have to problem solve, whether it is going to be a lane swap to try to avoid that 2v2 or something a little bit unexpected to try to draft some power here. The Varus obviously is a strong laner. If you do this alongside another strong laning support, MF another option, those would be the kind of 2 ones that I think you could maybe go head-to-head, at least try to take that 2v2 on.
All right, they're going to spend the whole timer thinking about it, but they will lock in the Varus there for Elk. Immediately, though, look at the numbers at the bottom of your screen. So far at Worlds, it's been a 6-pick champion, 1 win, 5 losses. It hasn't seen much success.
And I think a lot of that has been, there's been so much prevalence of dive. It's very difficult to set up on the Varus and actually have a lot of these auto-attacking champions. But, just get those auto-attacks off. But I do think if you have enough protection here with things like the Skarner, and also potentially something like a Braum for the amount of engage that is coming through, or, disengage that you want, it could work out relatively well here. It would suck a little bit for the laning phase, but afterwards, I think you're in an okay spot.
Bobby seems like a pretty nice pick here. Going to be interesting to see if that is actually jungle or top, though. Obviously, this is still a flex pick, and we have to find out from Weibo what that last lock-in is going to be, and that'll tell us what the lane matchup is going to be.
It does mean you're heavily reliant, though, on Chris to be this big engaged, so to kind of send in that ultimate with that. But, okay, it's actually going to be the Poppy top, and...
Oh, Neeko support! Okay! Neeko support from On, while we'll have the brand jungle for Tarzan, Poppy top for Breathe into Bin's Jax.
I mean, this is going to be kind of a bit of a throwback to previous matches where Tarzan, I think, was playing these AP champions so incredibly well in the LPL. To me, yeah, specifically the brand, he was incredible on it. I think this guy is so flexible. It is one of the advantages that Weibo has, and I thought that advantage had kind of gone away because of the nerfs to a lot of these styles of champions. But if you can come out and win with a brand game one, that does really change things up in Big Bang going forward.
And I think that's the beauty of what we've seen in this meta, is that it feels so series reliant, so team reliant, what you want to try and bring out. And if Tarzan can pop off in the brand, it's going to be absolutely insane. But you are going up against BLG, who have found some great ways to find timings to play around, like the Jax on that top side, try and find this lockdown, playing off this pushing bot lane now as well. It feels like a lot of this game, though, is going to rely on that bot lane and how you can try and get control there. And that has been something BLG in the past has been very good on, but Weibo domestically have been incredible at as well.
I mean, it's going to be really interesting. And Neeko, just as a champion, is so hit or miss. You know, especially when you are playing as a support, you don't have enough gold to really have a ton of damage behind your Qs and autos. It's really all about that initial engage. Can you find that perfect ultimate? Can you find those E's through minions to set up plays, to set up ganks? Because if that gets flashed, if that gets avoided, all of a sudden you really have nothing left and no tankiness to kind of stand up and fight.
And a huge amount of this is going to be Weibo trying to track On in the early stages. On is great at finding these windows to go and roam around the map, find ways to impact the game, but if you're not keeping track of this Neeko, suddenly there's an extra minion in your lane and you're like, hang on, that's a bit suspect. So I think if On can pop off in the early stages and get BLG rolling, we've seen how strong their tempo has been, playing off of these tempo leads, and Weibo haven't been able to control them any time they've faced up when they start to play their fast-paced game.
And especially when you're talking about trying to control things in this game. Very start of the draft, we're talking about, okay, they're letting Yone through, they're daring Xiaohu to lock it in. Can you win on this? Well, you're up against another pick in the Jax from Bin that has been getting a lot of popularity in the tournament overall. Bin is already a master of this champion, and if he is not set behind, he will be more than capable of answering Yone in a side lane.
And I think that top lane is going to dictate a lot of this series. If Weibo are to have a chance, I do think Breathe has to have a monstrous series. Bin has been good at Worlds, but Bin has not felt like Bin, where he is just so overwhelmingly powerful, where he feels unstoppable in every matchup. And when you give him Jax, it just feels like an execution sentence. He hasn't been that guy for me. Breathe has really been playing well also, so if he can really match that level or exceed the level of Bin, give them a naturally winning lane that Tarzan doesn't necessarily have to put ahead, that could be a way into the series.
And it is crazy to say when you're like, well, Bin solo killed Zayas. He's actually had some individually great performances, but I would 100% agree with you, Zayas. It's when it gets to like team fights where decision-making hasn't been good. Yeah, and those are what makes a good Jax great, and those are the things we are enamored with Bin for, but his decision-making in these team fights, how he positions on the Jax, just hasn't been as good as we expected to be for this guy.
And yeah, we just have insanely high standards. When I've talked to other pros about laning against Bin, this is one of the guys that people always talk about is so frustrating to lane against. Not because he does anything crazy or flashy, it's because he makes no mistakes. That's what everyone tells me when they're playing against him. He's not going to mess up. He's not going to miss the CS. He's going to play every trade perfectly, and it can feel kind of hopeless laning against him, where he's just creating these slow incremental advantages, and you don't really know what your recourse is.
It's a tough task for sure. Also, one thing that I normally look at, when I see Poppy locked in, I see, oh, how much value are you going to get across multiple different champions? How big will that steadfast presence be? Yes, you can shut down the leap strike from the Jax, but when we're looking at some of the other champions on the roster, it's not going to be as effective as it would be if it was on the other side, for instance. You could block a Kalista or something similar.
I think it's just such a good matchup in the lane phase, though, that you're like, hey, look, this is going to be fine. It's kind of come out as this. I can just push the lane, trade evenly with you, and prevent you from being able to trade effectively because that steadfast presence. Yeah. So I think you're going to be okay in the lane phase. And then even later on, just that ultimate is so busted. The fact you get to knock so many of these members away. Like, if Skarner goes bye-bye, he's not coming back for a very long time.
No, I completely agree. I mean, there's also an angle, even if it's not with the steadfast presence, to shut down plays. Skarner wants to come through a wall on an unexpected angle. You can easily E him and slam him into the wall. Neeko is looking for an ulti. You can actually ult Neeko out, or even just charge and push Neeko back to avoid that ulti hitting your carries. There's a lot of good plays that can still be made, even if it's not with the W.
All right, update for everybody. It seems there was a client issue. That is the cause of the delay on stage right now. However, we have already figured out what is going on. We're remaking draft with the same picks and bans, so running through that as fast as we can to hopefully get onto the Rift ASAP and get into this first game. Gentlemen, where are you expecting to see the early action mostly focused? Particularly, where are the junglers going to be trying the game?
I think it has to be bot lane. Like, the fact that you've got 2 range supports that are going to be battling out to try and get that control is so important. And if you can get this control 4 on, he loves to get out on the map, have influence there, and especially as we said with the Neeko, you can have such a big impact. So I expect both of these junglers to immediately put their focus there and hope they can turn it around.
I absolutely agree. I mean, as soon as you see the Neeko locked in, you feel like, okay, if you're going to be fighting for prio in this lane, there's going to be blood in the water. There's going to be low health bars. There's going to be a threat of those ganks, threat of those dives. And I do think bot lane could be very explosive.
But I do think for Weibo's side, you nearly need to play the counter gank. Because if you have this overextended Skarner, if you already have some of that committal, it becomes way easier then for you to try and play for the turnaround with Renata, having that bailout, the handshake to try and keep people at a distance. Even just jumping into a brand makes things significantly easier for him to operate. So I think it's going to be a case of trying to play this smart as Tarzan, and he has been someone that has been absolutely fantastic on this brand. I mean, the man could plan so many of those Q flash E's, it was insane. So we'll have to see if we can have a similar performance here in game number 1.
Especially into the Skarner matchup, since we know New Age Skarner wants one thing and one thing only, and that thing is health. It is the only thing he wants to build. Going up against Brand, there's just so much value there. It's so easy to set it up with an E into Q combo for an easy stun, stop him from being able to slam you. I'm expecting the damage charts to look pretty good for Tarzan at the end of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there aren't a massive amount of melee champions, but the Skarner is going to have a lot of trouble. I think the Jax as well. You know, if you are jumping in, the Skarner, the Jax, any CC comes out, it's going to be easy setup for that Brand to follow up. And when your frontliner gets full combo by Brand, that's pretty much the end of the fight for them.
And that's where I think a lot of us is, can you get these flank opportunities for Bin? I think that's where BLG have been exceptional with these kind of picks for Bin is, hey, we get control, we get to set up for good TP flanks, we get to set up for him to always have an avenue of an attack that's not just front to back. And I think especially in a game where you are playing against a Brand, a Renata, these things that excel when they just have everyone running towards them, you need to find these creative ways. But we'll have to see how this early game goes, because I feel like whoever gets control of this bot lane gets to dictate the pace of the game and can try and take over.
Do you guys think that means we're going to see more priority also over Drakes compared to how we've seen some previous games ignore them in favor of the Grub specifically? Or is it mostly just all about the PvP?
I think it's a little difficult because on one side you've got a Smolder, right, who's like, hey, I want to try and hands off. So even sneaking like one dragon away in the early stages in favor of like a Grub trade, I think actually favors BLG. But you also have a Jax on the opposite side that if you can manage to sneak away like 4 to 6 of these Grubs, works out spectacularly for him in the matchup that he's in. So I think it is definitely a difficult one, but if I was BiliBili, I would just play for the late game scaling and a Jax and a Smolder and say, I want to try and steal away maybe 1, maybe 2 of these dragons, especially with that bot lane push, and then just set up for hands-off gaming. We're just going to wait till 35 minutes and win.
Yeah, I mean, if you can be trading objectives, you know, as a team with Smolder, I think you are always feeling really, really happy. I'm going to be so interested to see how quickly Knight can get those stacks. I'm expecting him to play Glasc. That has become very, very standard, it feels like, especially in these range versus melee matchups where you're just stacking that additional HP. It's obviously really powerful for the trades in the lane as well. But, you know, when we saw Chovy, as you talked about, Clayton, bring this out in this exact matchup against FlyQuest, he was at like 225 stacks about 20 minutes into the game. It was really fast. It was so fast, and that really puts the pressure on you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the semifinals. We are finally on the Rift for game number 1 in this best of 5 to determine which LPL team gets to represent their region in the World Finals just a week from now. Weibo just defending in their own jungle as BLG doing a little bit of an invade here around the red.
Yeah, it's not 100% guaranteed, but Elk is playing Hail of Blade, so I'm expecting lethality, and I do think this, again, makes sense when you are playing with a secondary AD carry in the mid lane that is going to bring a lot of that consistent damage. And the lethality builds are generally stronger in that lane, in that 2v2 anyway. So with the amount of poke that you're going to have as a lethality Varus, plus on here on this Neeko, you know, getting some early points in that queue, can be pretty difficult, I think, for some of these supports to deal with.
It also just makes it difficult for Weibo to fight for control over mid-wave when it gets to the mid-game. So it gives you the opportunity to just say, hey, look, I'm going to start moving on out and about on the map, influence, like, giving Knight a ton of CS on sides, getting Bin under control. So I think it's just a good call overall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially when there's a champion like Brand on the other side, like one piercing arrow plus, you know, a W or something like that from Knight can push him out completely, but we are going to have a lane swap.
Yep, you're going to see the lane swap coming to life now as Crisp and Bin both hanging around the mid lane. And I like the point that you bring up, Azael, about the Brand, because you've got the Brand there, you've got the Renata in the support role. The only person who's able to shrug off these piercing arrows from the Lethality Varus is the Poppy. And I feel like these Lethality poke builds do feel so good against multiple squishy, viable targets.
Yeah, I think, though, the problem for Brand right now is the quadrants he has access to, because yes, his top side is the 2v2, but Skarner's already stealing away those topside camps. He's going to be able to rotate back down onto this bottom side and even invade on jungle with both Elk and On to support him. So you can see the route that Tarzan's taken. I think he's going to try and very quickly sneak in to get his own camps, but Bin, underneath his own turret, should be okay here.
Yeah, Bin using the counter-strike, secures the minion that he needed to get himself level 2, as Crisp will just take a stroll through the enemy jungle as Light keeps the pressure on Bin underneath the tier 1 turret.
Yeah, they could look to try to set up a dive here with Chris going up, and Bin knows it, so that's why he is backing off, playing this pretty carefully. You know, he is losing out a bit, but at the same time, you touched on it already, Shun was able to get most of those topside camps, and quite a bit of experience was grabbed by Bin. He's already halfway there to level 3, and his bot lane is farming plates down on this bot side, so going to be feeling pretty good overall, even though Bin does get set back. And now seeing the TP go bot, he can actually just walk back up to that wave.
Yeah, and should be able to get a good chunk of it, but it's a very large wave that Breathe is going to be able to get. Already having level 3, has to flash to get towards those minions as well. So Bin actually maybe in a little bit of a dicey position if this poke continues to rain down.
Yeah, Bin hitting level 3 now, has about 400 HP to work with as the plates continue getting knocked away in the bottom lane. BLG's duo having taken the first 2 already, and it looks like the minion wave is going to fall topside before any sort of additional aggression can come through, and BLG just continues keeping that pressure mounting.
And you can see where Skarner's gone. He's already moving down to cover on this bottom side. Will get scuttled for himself. Maybe looking at a dive, but Tarzan has just started to move back up top side. Bin once more, though, should have counter-strike available. I don't think he's going to go for this. Yeah.
All right, that ruins everything right there. Light and Crisp. 3 turret shots for nothing. Now we'll see if BLG can get something back on the other side of the map. Breathe, going to be under a little bit of pressure here. Nice and early, slamming it back into the wall. Sean needs a little bit more damage. Projectile in the air ain't going to be enough help. Barely survives the turret shot. Shun doing the same. BLG's dive barely fails.
They really wanted Shun to try and tank that underneath the tower, but Elk just couldn't quite get the damage off, and it meant they end up getting stuck under tower. Now Knight should be able to walk away here.
Let's get hit by the Q3 there from the Yone, which forces the flash over the wall from the BLG mid.
Yeah, he's going to have to flash out. Would love to watch that dive back, because On pulled aggro first, you know, with that Q and held aggro, and then we saw Shun flashing in for the immediate E to stun him against the wall to try to set up for the guaranteed hits there from Elk. But it did feel like On pulled it maybe a little bit earlier than the rest of them were expecting, because the reaction was a bit slow, and it felt like a turret shot or 2 had already gone out before the Skarner really reacted and started off that dive in earnest.
And to be fair, the start was brilliant, like using the clone to pull the wave to get your minions underneath the tower. It looked like it was going to be great, but I agree, it was a little bit messy underneath the tower. And I think all said and done, though, BLG still coming out with a nice lead for themselves thanks to those turret plates. Also, been able to free farm here against Light, and that top side means he's actually getting some CS, whereas his Breathe is only really starting to rack them up now.
Yeah, both top laners having the lane swap experience here early on, and with both dives being botched, means we're still staring at all zeros there in the kill columns. 5 minutes in, a little bit over 30 seconds till that first set of grubs spawns, as Shun makes his presence known in the mid lane, but Xiaohu already having the Q3 ready to go can just walk away from it.
And it can seem like a small thing in the moment, but I actually think it was such a smart flash from Bin to utilize that flash to save his health to get back towards the tower. And that's one of those things that, yes, there was then that follow-up mistake from Light where he takes those tower shots and that pulls off the dive, but he would not have been able to get that experience. He already was missing his teleport, so he knows getting that XP is so critically important, and that's why he committed the early flash, and I think it paid off big time.
Xiaohu missing the Q3, still trying to trade with Knight here in the mid lane. Level 6 available for the Smolder, but not quite yet on the Yone. You can see the EXP on the side there. Xiaohu just now hitting it.
And no TP on Breathe either, so this is a can we get quickly one of these grubs for ourselves. Looks like Tarzan should be able to do so as BLG get in, but Weibo just need to disengage from this one.
Yeah, Tarzan's going to grab that first grub, smites down the second. Actually, 2 grubs over to Weibo. Third one is secured by BLG.
really nicely done there by Tarzan. He gets multiple of the grubs low. He's able to finish one off without using the smite. Saved the smite for the seconds to steal that away. So now even has an angle at that potential 4, and On's looking.
Yeah, Crisp gets caught there by the Tangle Barb. Shun coming in through the wall. Goes for the Ishtal impact. Light now in a little bit of danger, has to flash away. Xiaohu first his Knight. Back in the Herald Pit at the same time. That's going to turn into a whole lot of nothing. All right, couple of moves, but nothing really connects.
But Breathe is still pushing in this bottom side, so yes, you do get some of the flashes, but you now need to trade this as BLG on the top end. Tarzan trying to keep Shun away from going for this gank underneath the tower, but I think BLG should be able to crack some of these plates still.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to need to. They were 500 or 600 gold ahead not long ago, and they've actually lost that lead now. Are going to be able to pull it back to parity, but this has been really good for Breathe. It's put him into a much better spot after that rough early game. He's now 300 gold ahead of Ben.
Also, the quick rotation for Light down to this bottom side as well means that as Tarzan, you can already see he's dropping blue, can move over into the spot side. They can look at a dragon pickup as well. So we were talking about looking for these trade back and forths on objectives, but Weibo sneak away 2 early Void Grubs, and now we're in a better position if they want to look towards Dragon as well.
Feeling pretty good about it. Faded Ashes for the Brand, Berserker's Greaves for the Yone. The early recalls also pretty much exactly where they would want them here on these champions for Weibo Gaming that want to make sure that they don't fall behind in this early game tempo. Xiaohu again, every time the camera goes over to mid lane, jumping forward with the Soul Unbound, trying to keep the pressure on Knight. Again, answering that call from BLG. Can you play this to a victory?
Exactly, and I think he's doing a pretty good job pressuring Knight so far in this lane. Knight, though, stacking up pretty well. Does have 52 stacks already, and you can see it's double tiers over on the BLG AD carries as they are looking to scale. So I do think everything's still going pretty much according to plan as far as BLG is concerned.
Well, let's see if this goes according to plan here in the bottom lane now. We do have 3 players nearby from Weibo. Tarzan standing by in case they need his assistance here on the dive, but immediately Light gonna have to use the Fates Call to keep his support alive. Still the pressure from BLG, looking to secure themselves a 4th plate on the tier 1 turret as Ben goes for the teleport back up into the top lane to stop Breathe there.
I was going to say, though, like, it's a very early Fates call on towards Chris. They hadn't really committed to anything, so BLG just pull away and now should get the plate on this bottom side. Jungler not here, though. Tarzan still hovering. I don't think they can really make a play, though.
Yeah, I think they just got a little bit nervous because I think Elk hit him with the ulti, and that's what actually prompted that out. Worried about that potential poke down. And BLG spending a lot of time down there, again, means Breathe is getting further ahead. Yes, Bin to TP towards top, but not before he lost an entire wave and another plate went over to Breathe. So Breathe is now at 550 gold ahead in that 1v1. And it's not really because of individual outplays, it's because of the lane assignments, it's because of where they're moving him on the map. And Breathe is just getting the better end of this situation.
Well, BLG, they might not have made the dive work out, but they are going to use the extra manpower they had down here to secure that first Drake for themselves. On doing a good job interrupting some recalls there with the Neeko. And we've still got a very close game in terms of gold.
Yeah, it's just interesting because most of the gold advantage is actually on, right? You know, which is not really where you would want it, but Neeko obviously, you know, can build some carry items here, so maybe more beneficial than it would otherwise be. But you can see Breathe is going, you know, for more of an aggressive build. You know, Sundered Sky is generally the rush for Poppy Top when they do want to go a little bit aggressive. Sometimes people will build multiple aggressive items, but it's almost always just the Sundered Sky into tank. And that can be tough for Jax, really until a couple items into the game, especially when you are at a disadvantage like this, can be a bit rough.
Well, hey, BLG claiming first turret now. All of that extra pressure on the bottom lane. Even if the dives don't work out, they're constantly making Weibo play on the back foot. They're always crashing the waves. They're always getting the damage on the turret. And that's first turret of the game, just a little bit over 10 minutes in, puts that gold lead back up to over 1,000. But now it's Weibo looking for the second set of grubs. And it looks like BLG's not in a good spot to contest here just yet. The first grub's already going over. And Weibo should guarantee 4, maybe just even the 5, uncontested.
And that's what I think the trade on the tower was. It was, look, you're starting to hit Kalista, who doesn't quite have her first item, but she's incredibly strong. Brand having that level 6 available is so potent as well, so they just back it off. They will rotate to try and protect this top side, but at least you're getting some gold onto Elk so we can complete that first item.
It is scary, though. You know, Elk obviously gets that much gold, and now he has the opportunity already. So, you know, this is a big one-item spike here for the Varus. Weibo are going to be having to deal with that. Yeah, you did get the 5 grubs, but the 5 grubs are just the potential of gold to be earned. You know, you have to actually get to the towers and crack some plates to be able to actually make it back.
I think you're also going to have to burn this TP as Breathe to get up to that top side so they don't crack more of those turrets, because you've got nobody matching here, but still no real TP, so Elk is just going to get to work away here.
All solo gold too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the big advantages that BLG have gotten is they're just putting everything into his pockets. And let's be honest, where else would you want it? Elk has been smurfing this Worlds.
Especially, but I think you're going to look for a potential dive on bot side. Light is now sitting in behind Breathe, trying to set up for something, but Bin is giving them a ton of leeway, not wanting to touch it. So yeah, Elk just getting more and more of this gold.
I mean, this guy was insane on the Ezreal. He was insane on the Kaisa. It feels like it's highlight reel after highlight reel after highlight reel from him.
And I think it's incredible to see his journey through. Kind of sound, oh, hang on.
Hold on, we got a bit of a problem over here in the mid lane. Xiaohu trying to flash away and stay alive. Does barely get out there, trying to use the Fate Seal to escape the Skarner, but the Impale was too powerful, so Flash also had to be committed. Weibo keeps their mid laner standing, but the top lane tier 1 turret can't tell the same tale, as Elk is going to collect even more money for himself.
But if you do get the tier 2 tower on bot side, which is likely for Weibo here, they're going to get a ton of gold, like 5 grubs. They demolish that thing, and now trying to protect your side lanes and, you know, steady out this game for BLG becomes significantly more difficult when you don't have that tier 2 tower.
Yeah, it's going to make Bin's job incredibly difficult. I mean, he really has been the sacrifice this game, right? They're moving him around, covering lanes. They're not actually covering him on dives, so he's having to abandon the tower very often. Has not been any sort of 1v1 or outplays like that. It's just been the lane assignments, but Breathe is very far ahead. And Bin is going to need to wait to like 2-3 items, very likely, before he can really match up with Breathe in the 1v1.
Yeah, you're looking at individual gold leads in this game right now. The largest one, 1.4K for Elk over Light, but Breathe over Bin is the second highest gold lead going the other direction. This Poppy is feeling great 13 minutes in. We've only got 60 seconds on the clock into the next Dragon fight as well. I'm curious if we get a scrap over.
I think the fact that you're starting to get Elk towards that second item is huge, but after that, he kind of just falls off a cliff. Like, this is Poke Varus. It's not exactly the take over an entire team fight type of champion. So I do think if Weibo are able to play this without him play for team fights, it could be in a great spot. BLG now trying to protect this topside turret. Bin's TP almost up.
Yeah, we've still got 35 seconds left on plates. Weibo would love to grab this fourth one from the tier 1 turret up here on the top side. Shun continuing to try to walk forward here, just force these guys back. The extra damage over time from the grubs continuing to bleed away at those plates, but BLG have enough manpower nearby to just wipe the waves out before anything else can really happen. Nice little bit of damage coming out from Tarzan, but he can't go any further forward. Tarzan and Elk both chunked down to about half HP.
It does cost the cleanse, though, off of Elk. You know, he was playing over vision. On's been doing a good job just kind of playing back and forth with him. So he steps forward, he hits that ulti, but they weren't really in position to actually follow up on it. And again, it's Xiaohu farming down in bot lane, and it's Bin who has committed his teleport.
Yeah, Bin committed the TP to mid to force Xiaohu off that mid lane turret, but it meant that then you had to back away his Weibo because Bin could always rotate first the top side. Now with Rift Herald up and available, Weibo's still trying to go. Xiaohu can TP back in, and that's the Blade of the Rune King he's about to finish.
Yeah, the Rift Herald not going to be completed by either side here. One thing I do want to note, remember that in a game of League of Legends, there are 30 turret plates every game. This game had 23 total plates taken. It has been absolute turret crushing from both teams here as the Herald started up by BLG, down to about half health. Weibo still hanging around, seeing if there's any way to challenge. TP coming in. BLG still looking for their moment. Nice shot there, the piercing arrow onto Tarzan. This is what you were talking about earlier, Azael, the ability to chunk the enemy jungler out and make it so difficult to then honestly contest a fight.
Exactly, that's the thing. I mean, I think, you know, traditionally Lethality Varus, you know, isn't scaling as well, but when there's squishy targets that have no sustain, it's very, very difficult sometimes. You hit a Q or two on the brand, he can no longer fight. Xiaohu and Light are going to be able to sustain. They're going to be able to, you know, upgrade the Rune King. They're going to be able to heal some of that back up, but it gets very difficult, and I can see a world later on where Elk hits one piercing arrow on Tarzan, Mom gets called from Knight, that hits alone, and then all of a sudden you're at 30%. That's that. You got to leave.
That's 30% more than I was expecting. Now let's see if we got the Rift Herald taken by Weibo before BLG can make their way over here. Shun is nearby. Might try to challenge for the smite, but it doesn't look like there's any chance. Not with Breathe hanging around. Easy, secure. Tarzan's got the smite, and Breathe can eject the Skarner.
And this is the trade on the other side. It's about the push down in bot lane. Bin had shoved that in. He's denying this wave down here from the opposition. He didn't have teleport, so they were never going to fully commit to it. I think they're just trying to keep them honest and say, you need to keep the rest of your team here just in case we were to fight. So they're buying that time for Bin, allowing him to try to claw his way back in.
And again, just kind of buying time for Knight as well to scale up. He's now set off to his side lane to keep himself safe, knowing that Weibo have to go for these resets. So as long as you're able to keep check of Weibo, you're in a good spot as BLG. But with Rift Herald now, they can open up on this mid lane, get another tower for themselves. Top lane tower is a stiff breeze away from falling over, and it means that then suddenly you're playing off of tier 2s and find it difficult to contest these upcoming objectives, and it can get a little bit more difficult for BLG.
Yeah, I agree. It can really get tricky, and we'll see. One of the things, though, definitely working for BLG is the fact they took these couple early dragons, so if they want to play it slow, Soul is not forever. You know, Weibo
20
doesn't
minutes
have,
away.
Exactly. Weibo doesn't have a way to say, you must come and fight us, besides the Baron, which is, of course, way riskier than just being on a Dragon Soul, where you're not taking so much damage from the objective. So if they feel like, you know what, we're not ready to fight, Bin's just going to go to the side lane. Knight's going to go to the side lane. They're going to keep pushing waves, keep farming and farming and farming until they feel they are prepared. So it's going to be on Weibo to try to force their hand here a bit, I really feel, and put them in a spot where they're finding picks or they're forcing plays that BLG have to respond to.
And that's where I think the downside of their composition is. It's really difficult for them to force plays. Tarzan isn't on an engaged champion. Crisp isn't on an engaged champion. You only need Light to fling Crisp in to start a fight, but if he's got to contest mid-wave, how the hell do you get in? So I think this is where it gets difficult for Weibo Gaming to push the game forward, and I actually think this is where BLG, having this Smolder kind of correctly identified, that Weibo are going to struggle a bit here.
We are now 30 seconds past the point of this being the latest first blood at this tournament. We are 17.5 minutes into the game, still no deaths on the board, and Weibo are just looking to continue to farm more turrets instead of champions. It's been an objective-focused game as Weibo lead turrets 3-2 and now have a 4-man push up here towards the tier 2 and top side.
Look, I'm not fully surprised. Chris was involved in the longest first blood ever in the LPL. Might as well bring it to Worlds as well. But Mom called, wave cleared, and it looks like Weibo going to back away here.
Bin down again on bot side. This is what I'm talking about. They're just going to keep trading. We'll see if Breathe can do anything about it, but Bin likely to be able to just walk this one out and is going to be in a good position. That gold lead is going away that Breathe had. He's only 200 gold up now after the tier 2 gold all goes into Bin pockets. Elk's going to take the tier 1 mid as well. So the gold very, very close. It's really where they want it, and they've just been buying so much time. Like when you talk about a really, really slow game, the one champion that always comes to everyone's mind in pro play is, I wish I had a Smolder. Yeah. One team does.
Smolder, Nasus, just put all the stackies everywhere,
man.
You know?
It's 20 minutes in, you haven't fought yet. Who do you want? Smolder.
Well, he's also about 50 stacks away from hitting that critical point. I mean, at this rate, we might have him hitting his execution threshold before we get an honest-to-God team
Maybe that's
fight.
first blood. That's how they do it.
That's I will cringe.
Flowers just got the faraway look. He's like, not like this.
That should not be the state of the game. We'll see.
That's the spike they need for first blood, baby.
If Weibo can accelerate this any bit further. One important purchase, always keeping my eye on these whenever I see them. The QSS picked up for Xiaohu. Does not want to get locked up. Does not want to get punished. Nice damage from Elk. He just shot him straight to hell. Crisp is down. BLG with a nice pick from their AD carry to get on the board.
I mean, that's 2 items completed there for Elk. He hits everything onto Crisp, and that guy is squishy. Deletes him off the map. It's a solo kill from a 2-item Varus, 19.5 minutes into the game for first blood.
Of course. It was the only way it could have gone. You know?
How did we not predict
that was
it?
Insane.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is exactly the problem now, is like, as you try to contest mid-wave against this Varus, it is incredibly difficult to do so. And it's just given time for Knight to really pop up. And when you look towards, like, Knight and Xiaohu, like, this has kind of been the talking point for a lot of this series, is how important it is for both of these mid laners to kind of get one up, both seeking their first Worlds title, both trying to kind of take that mantle as the GOAT when it comes towards LPL titles, when it comes towards the opportunity to have like most successive finals in a row. It's 6 for both of them right now. There's a lot on the line here.
There absolutely is, and I have really felt like Knight doesn't really get the respect that he deserves. Even in the LPL, you know, they did the official voting for the LPL. Over 300 people voted on this that work on the LPL. They're in the LPL community. Knight was not even listed in the top 10 players all time for the LPL, yet he is tied for or holding many LPL records. And I feel like the only thing he really is missing to finally get some of that respect is a world championship.
And I think it's kind of a similar story for Xiaohu, right? Like, this guy was under the shadow of Uzi for so long, but so many of his accomplishments have come when Uzi left, when you look at those international titles, and he's been absolutely incredible. Also, just kind of falling prey to people like Clearlove and Neeko, who people often look at as the best players in the LPL because they have some of those titles that Xiaohu doesn't.
Okay, Shun tried to tunnel through the wall there, see if he maybe could have been able to catch Breathe out. We are at our third Drake of the game, spawning now. BLG with a very slight gold lead. Everybody's got all their summoners ready to go. Neither Crisp nor Elk had to use one in that mid lane pick, and now BLG on the retreat.
QSS
as
gone.
Weibo pushes up. QSS is gone, so is the Fate Sealed, and Bin is on the flank. BLG holding their line just fine for now. Not really under a whole lot of extra pressure, I would have to think. As On continues disguising himself, throws out the Tangle Barbs, ain't gonna find anything with that. BLG continuing to just play this very safe, very careful. Another little bit of snot coming out from the Smolder there. The poke trying to whittle away at Weibo here a little bit as Mom roars in. Not a whole lot more to find. Breathe still taking a little bit more poke damage now here too. Weibo still hanging around, but not winning out in these smaller trades.
But Jax is now trying to circle in around them. That's why Weibo were so hesitant to try and engage. The Jax had disappeared on bot. Now he's on, pushing that wave once more. And Weibo, they need to make a call, but the lack of engage again is hurting them. The poke from BLG is insane.
And it's 220 stacks on Smolder right now. This champion is about to take over to superpower as BLG continue just shooting the poke back at Weibo. Shun now going to trade a little bit with Xiaohu, who has to reset. There with the soul unbound. Now you're going to have a TP coming in from Weibo, ready to keep this one going. Breathe has made his way into the fight. The Dragon's down to half HP. Breathe jumps in, tries to tackle On, but it ain't going to do a whole lot just yet. Ben still looking for the angle. Nice ejection onto the Skarner. They're trying to control the Drake. Breathe still in the front line. Drake down about 1,000. It's going to be slain by Xiaohu as now Weibo continue their push forward. BLG falling back as the hostile takeover doesn't do a whole lot. You've got Ben in the back line, but he ain't going to be able to do anything in a 1v3. Weibo take him out, and they want even more. A shutdown over the light as the Kalista claims a second. Shun, Elk, and On all trying to escape as Tarzan's looking to burn down the AD carry. Elk will continue whittling away.
Oh,
and the Leandries takes his soul. Weibo, 4-0.
Weibo needed something desperately in this game. It was starting to slip away from them. But not only do they get the Dragon, they can turn over towards the Baron as well. This is such a massive swing.
It's huge for Weibo. Ben had the flank, but he got absolutely nothing done. They just turn on him. They kill him off incredibly fast. He got no damage done, and they're losing the fight on the other side as well. On was never able to find a way in here, never able to even use the ulti. The Neeko got nothing done, and they weren't able to create that space for their AD carries to get the work done.
And that's why I was actually nervous for Weibo. This fight lasted so long. Elk's ult came back up off cooldown. And I was like, okay, well now Bin has a flank, but Weibo played into this choke incredibly well. Breathe jumping on towards On meant that On couldn't actually go forward. They get the knockout on the jungler. And then Xiaohu has been criticized for this Yone, but it was crucial here. He forces Elk back, keeps people out of position, and it means that they're able to turn around back on towards Bin and deal with him.
Exactly, and by the time Bin actually arrived, Xiaohu is snapping back. Tarzan is still there defending him, and BLG has collapsed on the other side. Weibo don't have great ways to engage, but they just force their hand. It's Breathe, it's Xiaohu going into the back line, pushing back these AD carries while they don't have the formation around them. And On was so low on health and so out of mana, it felt like before the fight even started.
I don't even feel like there was a backline in that fight, considering Bin was on the flank, and then Shun just gets poppy-yeeted all the way back into his own jungle. No chance for BLG to try to fight back. And there's your team fight damage. You can see tons of damage meters spiking up for both sides, but it's still Weibo coming out on top. It's Weibo now with a 3,000 gold lead, and Baron for the next minute and 45, pushing towards the tier 2 here in the top lane, while Xiaohu splits over in mid.
And this is desperately needed for Weibo, because trying to get access to these towers is incredibly difficult. As Fate's Call used there, Elk has been focusing down Crisp so often, trying to pop this support.
Yeah, just looking for these squishy targets, and Tarzan has been playing so far back, he hasn't really been able to get to him. There they go!
Flash for the counter-strike. They're going in after Xiaohu. The Impale doesn't find the target. Xiaohu's getting away, but Bin looks to keep on chasing. The second counter-strike will not find the stun, but Xiaohu has already used the Soul Unbound. He has to reset his position. He's going right back to where he started. I don't know if you even needed the Pop Blossom there. That felt excessive, but the point was made. Now Light trading with Night as another piercing arrow flies through the sky. Chris tries to keep his AD carry protected, but BLG aren't done. Skarner throws a rock, but it misses, and BLG will settle for the single kill.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get that kill onto Xiaohu. Looked like he might have even like pre-QSS the Counter-Strike. The timing on that looks sick from him, but still can't buy enough time for the rest of Weibo to get over there to try to bail him out. And now, you know, you look at where the gold is, it's really all about Tarzan. So BLG are going to try to fight away from this brand. If he cannot be a part of the fight, you still have great opportunities. And Knight now, 260 stacks at this point. He's going to go past that. Once he gets towards the rapid fire, that is where it becomes a bit of a nightmare.
But crucially, the Baron is now gone. That Red Bull Baron power play, you can see 20 seconds left on it. They don't crack mid-tier 2. They don't crack top tier 2. And this makes it easier for BLG again to just try and slow down the pace of this game. Get Bin into a position where he hits level 16, ticks over towards more items. Knight continues to stack, and that is perfect for BLG.
I just feel like as long as BLG can hold their battle lines, not overcommit to a fight, not give an easy angle for an engage, Varus is going to keep poking.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to have Neeko continually poking. We're going to have the rapid fire eventually completed, and Knight is going to be continually poking. And it's going to be so frustrating to deal with that on the Weibo side because you don't have that rally, you don't have the Alistar, you don't have the instant go button. They kind of have to give you a bit of an angle, or they're just going to be slowly whittling you down.
And I think that's why we can see the redemption starting to be built by Crisp, realizing, hey, I desperately need to deal with this poke. But the longer, as it says, it goes on, you then just get more of like the burn coming through from Smolder, the execution threshold going to be great. You've got 3 items now on towards Knight. He has just crested into the godhood that Smolder offers. So I think for these upcoming fights, especially at the Dragon in 15 seconds, it is going to be tough for Weibo to fight.
But we do have a lot of powerful defenses on the side of Weibo. The Fimbulwinter, fully evolved for Breathe, the spammable shield. Seeker's Arm Guard for Tarzan is a huge one. Mikhail's Crucible on Crisp to get rid of some more of that engaged CC potential on BLG's side. But now Weibo's coming around as BLG will have to retreat. Crisp looking to find the collapse here. Xiaohu wanted to go for the angle, but he ain't gonna get it. BLG continuing to exit to the left, making their way back up into the top side of the map.
Yeah, Xiaohu, you know, tried to come in, and Crash looked for the flash handshake, but couldn't get it. Forced the flash out from Knight, so that is going to be down, and that could be critical. Maybe they can find an angle with a flash from Breathe or something on Tonight.
But that's the Poppy ult down from Breathe just to protect the tier 2 top and the reset from Breathe coming in for its potential to come into this. But Weibo, they've already snuck away the Dragon. BLG just couldn't get in.
Nicely done from Weibo, now Fate sealed. Xiaohu wanted to go in on Elk. Instead he gets slammed back into the ground with a Pop Blossom, and now the Impale's gonna drag him back a little bit further, but no! Yone escaped. Xiaohu does not take enough damage to face death there. The mid laner wanted to go for the hero play on Elk. Yes, he will get both of the BLG AD carry summoners, but neither one falls.
And not able to quite have enough damage to actually finish him off, and Elk survives on the other side. But as you say, both his summoners are gone. They forced Knight's flash in that last one. Xiaohu's going to have flash, and there's going to be no summoners available for either of the BLG AD carries.
But man, this is one of the closest games we've seen between these two teams all summer long. Weibo are putting up an incredible fight, and the fact that they are able to go toe-to-toe consistently, match on these tempo plays, which they just completely fell behind on in playoffs, is incredible to see. Weibo are stepping up here.
I agree. I mean, we were talking about this morning when we were talking about this series. We went back and watched a lot of these games. In those 6 games they played in playoffs, 3 of them were 25-minute BLG wins. You know, BLG was very dominant in many of those games, but Weibo absolutely going toe-to-toe with them here. They've evened out the Dragons. They obviously still have that grub advantage, and the gold is in their favor.
You watched games from this year, but did you watch anything that happened to be played in Busan, Korea about a year ago from now?
I may have.
Yeah. A little bit of tape from that.
But who was the mid laner for BLG? It wasn't Knight.
Hey, all I'm saying is Weibo has made it happen before, and now they are starting up the Baron. They're burning it down, but not super fast just yet. BLG is close enough to try to contest here. Ben gonna have to try to jump away there with the counter strike as Weibo just hard engages onto Ben. The zone used to try to keep himself alive, and the flash back away to escape the follow-up damage. Weibo's attempt on Ben, it takes all their manpower, so they can't finish the Baron.
But they're also taking a lot of poke, and Ben can TP in. Xiaohu trying to make a play to keep them in check, but Shun
could be in a little bit of trouble now. Has to use the Ishtal Impact, slam breathe into the wall, and continue making his own escape. Now Tarzan's got to be careful on continuing to try to push him back now as well. Ben has made his way back into the fight, stuns up Xiaohu. The counter strike is there. Fate sealed to try to get away, but no! Elk snipes him down. Ben's gonna keep on looking for even more as Shun goes in for a nice impale. Now On's gonna be killed off as well. Crisp drops On, and the rest of BLG all still alive. Everybody from Weibo that's still standing is in retreat with Xiaohu and Chris down. It's a 5-man BLG play for the Baron.
It's a long back and forth fight, but BLG do take it. They're going to TP back in, though. Breathe wants to make some magic happen.
Breathe is going to try to pull off some kind of a miracle here. So much control over the Baron pit for BLG, and Weibo slipped up pretty big.
It was just that one moment BLG needed to get back into this game. You try and take the Baron, they try to turn on towards Bin, but he's just so slippery, and that Seeker's arm guard was clutch, because as you start to move in, actually this is later on, but afterwards BLG, they just know they've got the poke and the chase down. Bin TP's in for a great flank onto Xiaohu. They managed to finish him off with a great hit from Elk as well. And Weibo, they're just on full retreat. There's nothing they can do. Even Crisp getting caught out at the last second with no Fate's Call to keep him safe.
Yeah, Shun's able to get in there. He forces the flash out and catches the support with the same flash ulti. That was massive from him. Elk, of course, nailing arrows over the wall. BLG just putting that pressure on. The long drawn-out fights are so difficult for Weibo because there's so many more poke tools, so many ways to whittle you down. And now the Baron buff is there. The wave clear pretty weak overall from Weibo. Tarzan's going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, or this could be rough.
All right, tier 2 turret under pressure. BLG looking to build as much with this Baron as they can, but Xiaohu is on the flank. Breathe looking for maybe an engage here, but he won't find it. Weibo still trying to find their way in, as On's gonna be your target. Goes into the Pop Blossom for the counter engage. Xiaohu's low, but he snaps back after grabbing the first kill. Now Breathe has to try to escape, but the hostile takeover over the wall is stopping BLG's advance. Weibo has not lost a man, but they're at critically low health. Shun, Bin, and Knight all still looking. Big piercing arrow yet again. Another force of the Fate's Call. Light has to save Chris.
Yeah, Weibo have to run, but On got betrayed by that blast cone. I think it was maybe Elk that knocked him in and ended up getting him killed, but at the end of the day, it's still BLG with the bigger health bars.
Hashtag worth. You know, it worked out well. You sacrifice yourself, but we crack the base. It's a handshake deal that BLG will take every single time.
And the AD carries mine. Nothing of value is lost.
Exactly.
Just the support.
As a support player, I know that too well.
Meanwhile, down here in the bottom lane, you can see that tier 3 turret collapsing there to the minion wave. So now it's both bases having been cracked open after that sequence of plays. Yeah. Neither inhibitor taken, and now the Drake is live. Tied up 2-2 now. We'll see which team can hit soul point off of this one. You do have On back alive. Everybody still trying to keep these lines held as we approach this 5th Drake. Bin, the bottom part of the river. BLG still got to make sure they don't get caught out here. Knock up onto Elk, who has to try to continue getting away from Breathe. Pop Blossom, but it misses everybody. Xiaohu has already used the Soul Unbound, and Mom roars over the wall, finds a little bit of damage onto 2, but it ain't a whole lot. Weibo forced back, but honestly still pretty high on health. Knight and Bin DPSing the Drake. Chris takes a massive chunk of damage, and Weibo have to be so careful about this now. Knight flaps back over the wall as the Cloud Drake is secured by Elk and BLG. Weibo continuing to try to get themselves back away from an advancing BLG. Xiaohu engages, he goes after On. He finds plenty of damage, but the kill isn't gonna happen just yet. Now with the stasis coming out from On, he survives for long enough for the 2-man impale, but there's no further dividends being paid. Bin now in the stasis trying to get away as Weibo continue pushing towards the BLG top laner. He goes back in for the counter strike, but it does not matter. Light takes him down, and Weibo's already found 2 kills. It'll be traded back finally for 1 as Knight kills Breathe.
The fight from BLG was so separated. On gets caught, but Bin dives in the second he does. They just don't have the damage to try and finish off the Weibo members that are in front of them. So Weibo get the kill lead. They break a tower as well, and they're showing that they are not out of this game yet.
I mean, so much credit to Xiaohu and Breathe. They have a very difficult game to play here where they have to work as the primary engage. They're making it happen. It's scrappy, but it's being pretty effective.
Especially for Xiaohu on a champion he's been criticized on this summer. Yone was not his pick, it was the banana combo, but he is diving in onto BLG so effectively, having great moments to understand when he needs to pop back, hopping in onto kill On, but you can see here BLG just don't have the damage to kill Breathe. The fact that the Yone's gone backwards means that they're able to turn on towards Bin as well, and Bin just doesn't have the damage to take on Weibo.
No, and I mean, in a number of these fights, we're seeing Bin on kind of a little of these solo missions, right? Yeah. You know, he's over there without the support of the rest of his team, and it's just not going to work out. It cost him his flash, it cost him his Zhonya's, and he ends up going down anyway, as he couldn't take down Tarzan, didn't even get Tarzan's flash either, and gives up both those key abilities.
And it's what you were talking about back at the beginning of the game, back in draft too, Azael. This hasn't felt like raid boss bin at this Worlds like we've seen in the past. This game as well, back at the beginning, back during the lane swap, being set behind. Yes, he's done a good job coming back into the game. Yes, he's now 1,500 gold ahead of his lane opponent in Breathe, but still not finding those angles, not being that huge X factor. It's night and day. Now, a nice pick coming out from BLG. Huge kill onto Tarzan as Knight's now got to try to escape. Xiaohu snaps back, but is it going to be enough? The bailout might just get him out of danger. Elk's going to be killed off. Xiaohu lives, and immediately Weibo are fighting right back. Chris drops. Knight kills him, but Bin has to go golden to barely stay alive. Knight needs a little bit more damage. Pop Blossom to lock up the enemy top laner. A double kill of a Knight, and Smolder has scaled Redemption to try to keep Xiaohu and Light standing.
Smolder is flapping all over Weibo Gaming right now. Very lucky that he didn't manage to get over that wall, because that could have been several more dead members of Weibo Gaming, but Xiaohu is trying so desperately to claw these fights back, but it's so difficult when the Smolder is this strong.
It is really, really hard. I mean, he's got the Leandries done now at this point. It's a great pick from Shun. Comes over the wall there. They're able to catch out the brand. The ult from Elk is there to follow it up. Xiaohu's trying to turn this around, and the bailout does make a bit of magic happen. Huge. They had the Mikhails as well on one of the stuns there. Xiaohu barely survives.
Yeah, the sidestep from Knight at the start of that fight was so crucial, because otherwise that could have been the Smolder down, and then Weibo, the rest of them show up and they can barrel over BLG, but once more, Knight stepping up, just barely getting away.
I mean, these long extended fights are just getting harder and harder and harder. The Leandries is in, the W poke becomes that much more threatening here. You're applying that with the Q and the damage stacks of a burn. Weibo said, we've had enough. We need to fight. It's not going to get better.
Okay, we're going to Baron yet again. Knight and Elk with the poke for the side of BLG, but Xiaohu forcing the flash over the wall from On, who has to try to regroup with the rest of the team. He's down to 40% HP. He's not looking too good. Weibo still with health bars topped off, but Bin is pushing in the bottom lane the entire time. Weibo, if nothing else, has to get the teleport out of the Jax. Baron down to half HP. BLG still poking. Shun goes in, finds a slam into the wall, and now the damage is going to focus on Breathe and Crisp. On still staying alive defensively as Tarzan secures the Baron. BLG is trying to keep everybody close by. A nice impale over the wall comes out from Shun to lock up Light. Now they're going to be able to find a kill on Xiaohu. Now they're going to finish another one there on Light. Weibo may have claimed the Baron, but what about the game? Tarzan's going to try to keep running as Bin has broken the base in the bottom lane by the time Breathe and Crisp can respond.
Weibo barely get back in time to stop Breathe there.
Yeah, barely in time. And now Dragon Soul's going to be spawning here in 20. Xiaohu's dead for 40. Light's dead for 40. They just want to try to end the game right here, right now.
BLG know that Xiaohu and Light, so much of the damage on Weibo, dead for the next 35 seconds. BLG making their push. That mid lane inhibitor still vulnerable from the tier 3 turret that was taken earlier. BLG is going to knock that one over, and the first super minion marches down the bottom lane. Breathe, trying to get past them to cut the minion wave and save the game. Just buy enough time. Breathe, still walking away, but the mid lane wave is crashing the Nexus turrets. Now Tarzan's under pressure as Ben zones him off. BLG trying to force the end of the game. 5 seconds left on the mid and AD carry of Weibo, but it will not matter. BLG take game 1.
What a back and forth battle here between BLG and Weibo. At the end of the day, it is another BLG win, but damn did Weibo make him work for it.
That was not what I expected at all coming into game number 1. Weibo showed up big, and BLG, I think they're sweating after that one.
It was a battle back and forth, even if it was a slow burn to get going. The first match in this hopefully 5-game series is out of the way now. But a reminder, you can dominate the Rift with Opera GX. Get official league mods for your browser, access a dedicated Riot Corner for match schedules and tournament news, and enjoy a brand new co-streaming hub for live broadcasts. Oh, hell yeah. And don't you worry, we got a whole lot more worlds heading your way right after this.
Dominate the Rift with Opera GX. Install any official LoL esports mod from GX Store to unlock bonus content and features. Browse the collection and choose a mod. Open GX Corner and scroll to the Riot section with a brand new co-streaming hub. Set your language and choose a stream. Only on the browser for gamers. Only on Opera GX.
And if you're wondering why I move the way I do, I just feel so good, good, good. I just feel so good, good. I just feel so good.
数不清有多少个这样的时刻，闪现向前，焦灼，欢呼，沮丧，再来。没什么比这一刻更好。